Hello everyone, what's up? Today in this video we're gonna parse JSON from an API using the BLoC pattern. Now BLoC stands for the business logic component, and BLoC pattern is a design pattern for separating business logic from the UI layer. Now it needs a lots of work, but fortunately there is a package available for simplifying the process of implementing the BLoC pattern. The package is the Flutter BLoC. I'll put the link in the description. So we're gonna parse the JSON from an API, which is like this. I'll put the link in the description. You need to get the API key to use the API. I have mine, and the final URL will look something like this, and this is the response from that API, and our final app will look like this one. There will be a list of articles, and when we click on the items, there will be another screen containing the description of that article. Okay. So let's start it. Now let's have a brief overview of the BLoC package that we're gonna use. Basically, a BLoC takes a stream of events as inputs and converts them into a stream of states as output. This package instructs the reactive aspects of the BLoC pattern, but then again, let's have a quick view on some important terms. There is something called events, which is input to a BLoC, and these are actions on a screen such as button click. And another term is states. These are the output of BLoC. In BLoC pattern, user interface is changed based on the stream of received state. So enough talking, let's get started. So first of all, we need to add the packages in the pubspec YAML. We're gonna use these three packages. One is obviously the Flutter BLoC. Another one is the HTTP package, which is for the network call. And additionally, I'm using the equatable package, which is for comparing value equality of the objects. Now, let's create some folders here. I already have created two. One is res for putting resources like strings, colors, arrays, etc. And inside we can use the images. If we use images externally, then I can put it inside the res folder. And here is a strings.dart file, and here I am using a static string, which is the link of our URL. So nothing really. And then there is the UI folder. I'll come here later. And also let's add some other folders, like one for the BLoC, and other one is the data folder. Okay, so inside the data folder we gonna have some models and our repositories. So let's add two more folder here. One is models and the other is repositories. Okay, now what will be the model of our responses? So this is the response from the API. We need to create a model class for this response, and fortunately there is a tool to simplify the process of creating the model class. Let's just copy the responses, and there is a tool, this one. Just paste the response here and then click here. This will automatically generate the model classes for us. I'll put the link in the description. So this is the model class that we're gonna use. So let's copy it, and then paste it, create a folder here, create a file here, like I'll name it as API result model dot dart. Okay, and then paste the code. These are the model classes. Let's just rename this auto-generated class to something. This will be renamed as the API result model. Okay, so this is the model class, and I have renamed the name of it. So it has three values, three variables here. You can see one is string status, whether the response is successful or not. Another one is an integer, the total number of results. And finally, the one which we are looking for, the articles, list of articles. Okay, so this is the model class, and let's create a repository for our app. So let's create a repository. So for that, let's create a file, article repository dart, and here I'm going to create an abstract class, abstract repository class, article repository. Okay, and what are the use cases here? Just a single one, which is fetching the articles. And so let's create a method for that, and of course we're gonna get the articles as future. So return type will be a future of list of articles. Article is a model class, get articles. So this is the repository class, is the repository abstract class. Now let's implement it, and we don't need to create a separate file, rather we can create the class implementation class here. So article repository implementation, which is gonna implement the abstract class that we just created. Okay, now time for logic, for converting the for parsing the JSON. Now we need to use the HTTP package here for making the network call. So let's import it, http.dart as HTTP. Okay, as the return of as we're gonna get the articles as future, so we need to use the async keyword here, async, and let's use http.get, and let's put the link here, which is inside the strings class. I'm going to import it, strings dot create article URL. So this is the in this way we're gonna get the response from the URL. So let's put it in a variable response. Okay, now let's check whether the response is successful or not. So for that, let's use if response dot status code response dot status code. What's wrong here? response. We have not awaited here. We need to use the await keyword because this is a future response. So we need to await here and then use the response dot status code. If the status code is 200, that means response is okay. Then we're gonna convert the response. So let's first use the get the JSON response. So for that we need to use convert dot convert. So let's use JSON dot decode the response of the body. Okay, this is gonna give us a JSON response, right? Returns resulting JSON object. Yeah, this is gonna give us the JSON response, but we need response as articles, right? It is the model class. If you can remember, we're gonna fetch these articles objects, but here we are getting the JSON response, so we need to convert it. So first let's put the JSON response in a variable data. Okay, and then convert the JSON response into our appropriate model. If you look here, there is a from JSON method which is gonna take a map of map and then convert it into our response model, which is articles, list of articles. So let's use that their result model dot from JSON, and let's pass the JSON response here. Okay, this is gonna give us the appropriate list of articles. Okay, so let's put it in a variable, a list of articles. Okay, what's wrong here? Oh, articles. Okay, this is the articles variable of this model. This one, articles. You're gonna get a list of articles. Okay, so now we can return this list, return articles. So that's all about getting the response from the URL. Now there may be some exception when the response is not okay. So let's handle it. Else, if the response is okay, then we're gonna parse. We're gonna return this article. But if it is not, then we're gonna throw an exception. That's it. That's it. So that's all about our repository class. Nothing much needed here. So our data layer is ready. Okay, now let's come to the core of this video, which is the BLoC pattern. BLoC. Now inside BLoC folder, we're gonna create we may have several blocks for the for our app, but in this app we have a single block which is for fetching the articles. So I'm gonna create another folder as article block. And as I said earlier, we need three things for a block. These are the states, events, and a block file. So let's create those files. First one is article event dot. Second one article state dot. And finally article block. Okay, so let's move on to the event. So what are the events in this app? We have a single event which is fetching the article list from the API. So just a single event, right? So let's create an abstract class for the event. Okay. So let's create it. Abstract class article event, and we're gonna extend the equatable class. Okay. Now we have the single event. Let's create it. Name it as fetch articles event, and we're gonna extend the abstract class, abstract article event class, article event. We need to override a method which comes from the equatable package. Okay, that's it. That's all about the event. Now, what are the state of our app? Think about the different states that we gonna get. Initially, when we start our app, there should be a loading indicator, because fetching the articles is a future operation, so it's obviously gonna take some times, and during that time we should display a loading indicator. So there should be an article loading state, and then a state for the success when the fetching articles become success, and another for the error. There might be some error, and these are the three states. And additionally, we can use another state for as article initial state. Okay, so let's create those states. So just like the event, we're gonna create an abstract class first. Abstract class article state, which is gonna extend the queryable class. Okay, now let's create the states. First one is article initial state, and extend article state. Second one is for the loading state, article loading state. The third one, when articles are loaded, article loaded state. And another one for the errors, article error state. Okay, we need to override the one method which comes with the equatable package. So just override that method. Now in the article initial state, we don't need to use any variable, so we can make it empty. Same goes here in the loading state, empty. But in the article loaded state, we have to handle the fetched articles. So let's create a list of articles. Okay, and then in the constructor article loaded state, let's make it required. So for that, we're gonna use a package which is meta.dirt. Now we can make it a required this dot name it as articles. That sounds good. Okay. And similarly, when error occurs, we should show an error message. So string message this dot message. So that's all about the article state. Now let's move on to the article BLoC file. So this is the file where we're gonna we're gonna fetch the state, we're gonna map the event to state. So let's make it ready. First of all, we need to import the block.dart file, that package, and then create the class which is article BLoC, and we need to extend the BLoC, and as type parameter we need to mention the article the event and the state. So event here is the article event and the state is article state, right? And we need to write two methods which are the initial state and the map event to state. So initial state will be is for the initial moment of our app. So for that we already have created an state here which is the article initial state. So let's just use it, article initial state. Okay, now come to this method which is map event to state. So what this method gonna do, this actually gonna it takes events as a stream and then converts them into states as streams which are consumed by presentation layer. Map event to state method is called whenever an event is added by presentation layer. So here in this case, when the event is added, article loading article initial state is initially loaded, initially gonna be called, and then we need to handle the other states. So let's first check the event first, even though we have only a single event which is article. Just a minute. Fetch articles event. This one is the only event of our app. So if the event is this one, we're gonna handle it. How? Also one more thing, which is this map event to state gonna return the states as strings. So for that we need to use this async generator keyword. And then when event is fetch articles event, initially we're gonna yield the article loading state, article loading, right? So yield is just like the return keyword of any function. You can compare it with the return for now. And initially we're gonna display the loading indicator. For that we are using this article loading state, and then we need to get the responses. I mean, we need to fetch the articles. So for that we need to use the article repository. That means we have a dependency here on the article repository. Make it a required. So for that, let's import the meta.dart. Okay, and then use the required keyword, this dot repository. Okay, And then let's fetch the articles from the repository. For that, we have this repository dot get articles method, and of course this is a future, so we need to use the await keyword here. Await this one, and we can put it in a variable, a list of article. Okay, so when the article fetching is completed, then we can yield the article loaded state, right? So yield article loaded state, is it typing mistake? Maybe let's copy the appropriate spelling. Yeah, and then we need to pass the articles. Okay, so that's all about fetching, but remember there may be some exception while fetching, maybe some interruption like internet connection interruption or some other things. So for that, to be in the safe side, we should use a try catch block. So let's use it, a try catch block. Okay, and then we should catch the exception, and remember for exception, for errors, we have a separate state which is the article error state, I guess. Article error, yeah, and then pass the message. Message is e.toString. What was the name here? Oh, we did not make it named parameter. So let's make it named parameter by using the curly braces. Okay, now that should be okay. Okay, so that's all about the article block, and our block part is ready, right? We are done with the events, we are done with the states, and also our article block is ready. So our block part is ready, data layer is ready. Now only things remaining is the UI part, so let's do it. So now let's finish the UI part. We have this main.dart file which has a home page. I will show you the home page later, but we need to use the a widget from the BLoC package, which is the BLoC provider. Let's use it. BLoC provider, I will explain it. BLoC provider, and as builder it gonna take the context and then return the block we are working with, which is the article block. Yeah, article block, and it has a dependency on the repository. So let's pass the repository, article repository impl. Okay, and then child, as a child we can use our home page. I'll show you the home page in a minute. Now let's talk about the BLoC provider widget. What is this? So we are using BLoC provider widget from the Flutter BLoC package in order to make the instance of the block, which is the article block, available to the entire subtree. BLoC provider will automatically close the article block, so we don't need to use stateful widget and then override the dispose method. The disposing part will be done automatically, so we don't need to use we don't need to make this home page stateful. But then again, we're gonna make it a stateful widget instead. Reason is there is no user action initially when the API gets called. I mean, when our app starts, there won't be any user interaction. Directly the API will be called. So we need to call the block from the init state method of the stateful widget. So for that reason, we're gonna make this home page as stateful widget, right? So this is the home page, and I have made it stateful, and I have created the UI. So let's have a brief discussion. There is a you can see here there is an app bar. For that I have used this scaffold widget, and there is the app bar, and in the app bar there are two buttons, one for refreshing and the other one is just a simple button for showing the about screen. Okay, nothing much, and then an empty container as of now. We need to display different UI based on the states. So for that I have created the UI for appropriate UI for the states. One for the loading state. When the state is loading, then we're gonna show the circular progress indicator, and then when if there is any error, then we're gonna show a text widget with the error message. And if the parsing is success, then we're gonna show this we're gonna call this method, which is returning a list view, simple list view, nothing gorgeous, a simple list view. Okay, and for navigation purpose, I will explain it later. For navigation purpose, I have created this true method. Okay, nothing related to BLoC. Okay, some simple UI data. So let's our BLoC is ready. Now we need to call that BLoC, right? So for that we should have an instance of the BLoC that we just created. So let's have an instance of that BLoC, which is article BLoC, and we're gonna initialize it inside the init state. But let's move here now. The container is completely empty. It is completely empty, and as a child of this container, we're gonna use a widget which is BLoC builder widget, and we should specify the BLoC and the state as the type parameter here. Article BLoC, and the state is article state. Okay, so this is the BLoC builder, and inside the builder it takes the context and the state, and then here we're gonna check the state, and then we're gonna return the appropriate UI based on the state. So let's check the states first. If the state is article initial state, then we're gonna return something. Else if it is else if state is article loading state, then another UI. Else if state is article loaded state, and finally if there is any error, the error state is article error state. There should be a separate UI. But even the article initial state and article loading state will show the same UI, the article the build loading, but then again we have created a separate BLoC here. Okay, now let's return the appropriate UI. For article initial state, we're gonna display the loading indicator, build loading. Same goes for the this state, return build loading. And if JSON parsing is successful, if we can successfully parse the articles, then you're gonna return this part, which is build article list. Return build article list and pass the articles which gonna get from the state. Yeah, and finally, if there is any error, then return build error UI with the message state.message. So let's have a look at the UI. The loading UI is just a simple loading indicator. Error UI is just a simple text widget. And the build article list UI is simple list view. And there I have used the inkwell list style and other UI parts, right? And that's all. But remember, we should show a toast message when there is an error, right? You can show a toast message, or else you can show a snake bar, right? So there is also another widget from the BLoC package, which is BLoC listener, and this widget is to listen to the different states, right? We can make the print message for the debugging purpose, and we can listen to the states. So let's wrap this BLoC builder with that widget, which is the BLoC listener, right? And as type parameter, we should mention the article and the block and the state, just like the provider. So let's mention it, article block and article state. That's all. And then listener, it's gonna take a context and a state. So if the state is article error state, then we should show a snake bar. So for the scaffold dot off dot show snake bar, content is a text widget, and state dot message. So that's all about showing the error message. There will be a snake bar with the error message. Also there is a separate UI for that error message, which is a text widget at the center, right? So our UI part is also ready. Let's import these articles. UI part is also ready. We are fetching the state and then showing the appropriate UI, but nowhere so far we have called the event, right? There is instance of the article block. We need to add the event to the block. So let's first initialize this article block here using the block provider dot off. Okay, So we need to initialize it and need to add the event here. Just mention the block article block. Okay, so initialization is done, and then let's add the event here, which is fetch articles event. Import it. Typing mistake. Just a minute. Okay, so everything is ready to go. And anything missing? Everything is ready. Oh, okay. Let me show the article detail page. That is also simple, nothing serious here. This is the article detail page where we're gonna have the article object, and we're gonna display the data in a list view. Just a image widget, and then a container with the text widget, and simple UI, nothing serious. Okay, simple UI. And then the article detail page, which is even more simple. There is nothing but some the article detail page, and then the about page. About page is even more simple, just a text widget at the in a container widget. So that's all. We can now run the project. Now let's see. So let's have a brief overview what we have learned. Initially, we created this data layer with the models with the models, appropriate models, and then we created a repository class where we actually parsing the JSON into our models, which is a list of articles, right? And then let's have a look at the BLoC files. There are 3 files: event, state, and BLoC. A single event, nothing much. A single event for this app, which is fetch articles event, and there are 4 states for this app, which are initial state, loading state, loaded state, and then error state. And inside the BLoC, we have extended this BLoC class and mentioned the event and state in the type parameter, and then we have shown for the initial state, this article initial state is given, and inside the map event to state method, we are actually converting the event with the appropriate state, right? So if the initially we are checking the event, and then initially we are showing this article loading state, and then articles are fetched. If this is successful, then this article loaded state is yielded with the articles passed, and if there is any error, then this article error state is yielded, right? So let's check. Yeah, this is working perfectly. Initially there was a loading indicator when the app gets called, and then the list of articles. Now let's click on article, and then this is the error page. Okay, if you like this video, do subscribe to my channel. Let me know